Well, class, this is the second part of Chapter 4. Okay? Now, in this part, we're going to be doing an analysis of what the impact of adopting certain ethical activities, both voluntary and mandatory, are on the company. So let's do that first. So let's first set some working parameters to our discussion. The first thing is, regardless if the program is voluntary or mandatory, it will have an impact. Okay? If you take that a company enters an environment, and that environment has a certain format, after the company starts doing things, okay, in an ethical fashion, it impacts on its environment. Right? The environment changes. Okay? So regardless of whether it's voluntary or mandatory, there's an impact. The next thing is, how do you define institution? I would submit to you that you don't want to take a very structured view. Okay? Everything should be an institution to you, be it a business, a college, a government, a business group. Maybe it's a society that the companies belong to or that workers belong to. All these are institutions that can act to impose, in an institutionalized fashion, ethics on either individuals, the companies, or both. Next, how do you evaluate an impact? Now, for those of you who've been in the program for a long time, you know that the SWOT analysis is the thing that's used all the time to do any impact analysis. For those of you new, let's go through it. Okay? So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strengths and weaknesses look inside the company, the opportunities and threats of the external environment. Okay? So what do we mean by that? A strength of a business empire or entity results from or is a result of compliance. A weakness is something that happens to the business entity as a result of or from compliance. What do we mean by that? The company opts to be or strives to be ethical. Okay? A strength would be its goodwill would go up. A weakness would be it might cost the company money. Okay? So that's how you look at the positive, shall we say, the strength versus the weakness, the negative. Okay? Internal to the company. The opportunities and threats are external. Okay? It's things that are impacting on the company or that the company now impacts on a third party. So these are opportunities that are presented to the company or the business entity from external forces as a result or from compliance. In other words, the company, because it's now ethical, looks out and says, I can do X in a location, okay? Or I can compete with that company over there. It's an opportunity outside the company, outside its area of strict operations. The threat is the obverse of that. It is a threat that's presented to the company from an external force. Okay? So in other words, we're ethical now, and we're doing our best, right? So now that creates an opportunity. Let's say we're, I don't know, we're a bank and we're ethical, right? Because we're ethical, now we might have been just located in a state, now we go regional, right? It's an opportunity. The threat might be, okay, that we try to be ethical, we try to do the right thing, but because we do that, and because now we're on the radar of other companies that are equally ethical, they want to now come at us and say, well, you know, we're better than they are, okay? We do our job better than them, okay? So that's when we always look. This is basically the positive and the negative of what goes on. The strength and the weakness, you're looking inside the company, and the opportunity and threat, you're looking outside the company. Now, having said that, so now we know how we define impact. That's something that goes on in the environment. We have the concept of institutional or institution. That's all these different items or structures that might impact on our company. And we know how to do our analysis. We're going to do SWOT analysis. Okay. So now we want to apply it to the business entity that we're now operating. Okay. So the first question that you're going to ask yourself, okay, is where am I going to apply all these ideas of an impact potentially happening, or that the institutional activity will impact on the company? What I will say to you, or I suggest to you, is there is no division of a company that isn't impacted by these concepts. Finance, IT, marketing, operations, R&D, sales, everybody is impacted. They can be impacted alone because maybe it's specific to their area, or they might be impacted by groups of them because the ethical guidelines are impacting on more than one area. How does the business monitor or respond to these changes? How does it measure its impact? What does it do as a result of the impact? Well, the first thing we're going to say always is the method by which the company analyzes what the impact is always going to be a SWOT analysis. So no matter where you are, if you say to yourself, there's something going on here, okay, then you say SWOT. Okay? That's very important. Okay? So every time you look at a situation, somebody says something is changing here, something is different, you should respond in your mind by saying, oh, I've got to do a SWOT analysis here. Okay? Very, very important. And that being said, how often are they doing the SWOT analysis? Again, we're in a dynamic environment. Nothing is static in business. Once you change the environment, you must change more because the environment changes. So you're constantly changing and mutating, amending down the line. So it's continuous. Okay? You know the old saying, you either evolve or you die. So that's what that goes to. And what's the format of the response? In other words, how does the company respond to the changes that may be impacted from within or without as it attempts to be more ethical or it fails to be more ethical? And that, I would submit to you, is evolving. In other words, the company may have to change its core principles. It may have to change its personnel. It may have to change how it does business. There are a variety of ways that a company could respond to an impact. And it is as much evolving in its process of acting on the impact as it is when the impact is happening, okay, and what the nature of the impact would be, right? So these are very, I would ask you to say, very important concepts to take away, okay? The big takeaways, always remember, no matter what, we're in ethics here with law, you're going to do a SWOT analysis, and then you realize that your environment in business is never static. And that once you accept that you're doing a SWOT analysis and that the environment is dynamic, that leads you to this concept that everything is continually subject to a SWOT analysis, and that the results of that SWOT analysis and the application of the SWOT analysis is always evolving, such as the nature of dynamic environments. Well, that's the 4th chapter of the book. As I said at the outset, I broke it into 2 sections. The first section, how do we institutionalize ethics through voluntary and mandatory programs, and then having accepted that these programs exist, these large categories, and they're always subcategories, okay? How do we measure the impact in the second part, okay? So that is chapter 4. I'll see you in the next chapter, chapter 5 in a little while, and then we'll go from there. You have a good night now. Take care.